This is another video in the 3D Engine series. I like cel shading. It's a rendering technique that gives a stylized, flat, comic book style appearance, and it's been used a lot in games like Legend of Zelda, Borderlands, Jet Set Radio. I remember playing 13 on the Xbox, and that looked good. So adding cel shading to the 3D Engine would be an interesting way to demonstrate the flexibility of the rendering pipeline and how to use and write custom shaders. So really, the cel shading technique is based on three things, and that's quantizing the diffuse color and the specular highlight in the lighting stage, and also having an effect to give a border to the outline, a silhouette to the mesh. So I've added the effect of the border, the silhouette. So if we turn that on, we can see we get this thick black outline to whatever mesh has that effect. And I've also added to a material the ability to quantize the diffuse color and quantize the shininess, the specular highlight. So let's turn the diffuse color on. We can see now we're getting a quantized banding of color rather than a continuous set of values. In this case, we now have one of three values. And let's quantize the shininess or the specular highlight. And you can see now, rather than a continuous set of values for the highlight, we now have one of three values. And there we have the cel shading technique compared to the same teapot below. We can see it's much more stylized, much more comic book style, and again, it's achieved by applying the three things: the silhouette and the quantized color and specular highlight in the lighting stage. So how do we achieve this quantization? Well, we take the angle between the light and the fragment and we quantize that from a continuous set of values into one of three, and that value is then subsequently used to work out the diffuse color. And we also quantize the specular highlight from a continuous range to, again, one of three to give us this banding of the highlight as well. The silhouette is an effect rather than an aspect, an attribute of a material. And the effect is achieved by rendering the mesh slightly larger than it is, so you add a small scale, a world scale to it, and then you render only the back faces, the back facing faces, using whatever color you want the outline, the border to be. So I use a simple black material, render the back facing faces slightly larger than they would normally be, and then you render conventionally the teapot over that, which gives you this thick black border. You could try using fewer quantization levels for the angle between the light and the fragment to give you maybe one solid diffuse color. So decide on what that color is and use that everywhere, and then stick to the three levels for the specular highlight, and that would give you the appearance in the Wikipedia page that describes cel shading. But personally myself, I preferred the three level quantization for both the diffuse color and the specular highlight. I think it gives a nice appearance. Comparing that to the standard Utah teapot below, you can obviously see the cel shading appearance style. This 3D engine is available on GitHub to use and modify, and the GitHub repository link will be in the description below.